We are live now.
Thank you, Anish. So good evening, good morning to everyone who have joined us from different parts of the world on this occasion of this panel discussion on how to scale up deep tech science-based startups. I hope that all those who have logged in are hale and hearty and are taking utmost care of themselves and the families in these difficult times of COVID-19. Even though the pandemic has struck, it is really inspiring to see that the Indian startup ecosystem remains vibrant and has managed to emerge from these difficulties. It makes me wonder why startups, especially the deep tech startups, are so important during these difficult times. One success story that comes to my mind is the story of MyLab. Venture Center supported MyLab Discovery Solution has become the first Indian company to launch ICMR approved rapid antigen self-tests. With this innovation, we can get tested in the safety of our home with an easy to use kit, and the results will be in 20 minutes. I wish to congratulate the entire Venture Center team and MyLab for bringing such an important product to life in such a drastic situation. It are innovations like this which tend to change the face of Indian entrepreneurship ecosystem. Technologies such as AI, machine learning, NLP, RPA, blockchain are the future. And it is with this thought that the Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog, in partnership with Venture Center, NCL Pune, and BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has launched the AIMPRIME program with an aim to train and guide innovators and technology developers at startups, academia, and R&D organization in the process of translating science-based deep technology ideas to market via entrepreneurship. In order to shed more light on the overall AIMPRIME program, I would like to call upon Anmol from the Venture Center team. Over to you, Anmol.
Thank you, Nila. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Anmol.
All right. So, wanted to give a little bit overview of the AIMPRIME program. The PRIME stands for Program for Researchers on Innovation, Market Readiness, and Entrepreneurship. It's an initiative of the Atal Innovation Mission as implemented by Venture Center, supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and also catalyzed by the PSA's office in the Pune Knowledge Cluster. As Anurag mentioned, the objective of the AIMPRIME program is to promote deep tech entrepreneurship by training and mentoring both the technology developers, which are the startups, and the faculty, and also training the incubation managers with better toolkits and processes to promote and support these deep tech startups better, to provide a complete ecosystem to promote deep tech entrepreneurship. The AIMPRIME program is structured as a blended learning program that is comprised of Prime Classroom, which is a part focused on online lectures and guided exercises on various topics and various sectors that go into building a deep tech startup. We also have Prime projects, which will be the live projects that the participants will be working on throughout the course of the program. We will also be focused a lot on peer-to-peer learning by bringing in veteran mentors, senior entrepreneurs, and experienced incubation managers to interact and communicate and share their experience with the cohort for a more interactive learning. We'll also be having Prime mentoring, which is a one-to-one mentoring piece of the program that will be structured in the later half of the program. As in addition to the classroom sessions and the mentoring, we'll be also developing certain tools that will be useful for the participants and beyond to promote deep tech entrepreneurship. One of this includes the Prime Playbook, which is designed as a end-to-end guide for any entrepreneur working in the deep tech space to cover different aspects that has various toolkits, various other resources for better promotion. We also have Prime videos, which will be a video series on various topics of the AIMPRIME program. The program is structured into 6 modules covering problem solving, IP definition, IP strategy, market positioning, business strategy, financial execution, and the company creation, ending in module 6, which focuses on the ecosystems and the peer-to-peer learning and the case studies of successful entrepreneurs. One of the key aspects of the AIMPRIME program is our wide range of experts and faculty that will be with us during the program. This includes various faculty from who have hands-on experience from across the global ecosystems in the US, UK, Singapore, and India, who will be working with the cohort. We also have an internal venture center mentoring team that will be supporting the mentoring aspect of the program as well. We are also very thankful to all the contributors who are helping run the program very effectively and efficiently. As part of the cohort, we have 3 tracks: the 2 technology developers track, which is the startups and the faculty, and the technology manager side, which is the incubator side. We'll have 10 startups, 10 institutions who will nominate 2 members each to form 40 participants or 20 projects. And we'll have 10 incubators selecting 2 managers that will be paired up with these 20 projects to run 20 project teams over a period of 9 months with a cohort strength of 60 participants. In terms of the eligibility for the startup leadership team, we are looking at scientists, engineers, and clinicians with advanced degrees that have a formal employment with the startup. The startup can be at any TRL level, but should have some knowledge intensity or novelty. And preference will be given to AIC incubated startups. The faculty entrepreneurs, we are looking at scientists, engineers, or clinicians with advanced degrees having full-time employment with the academic institution. The technology that they're working on, again, could be at any TRL level, but should have some knowledge intensity or novelty. And preference will be given to AICs or publicly funded institutes, publicly funded academic R&D institutes. For the incubation managers, we are looking at individuals with undergraduate degree in any discipline, having a full-time employment with the incubator. And the incubator should have at least 1 deep tech startup that they are mentoring. And preference will be given to AICs and AIM-funded incubators. In terms of the timeline, the last date for application is 30th May, and the cohort will start on 14 June and will go for a period of 3 months for the first classroom sessions, which will include the lectures and the guided exercises, followed by 6 months from 15 September to 15 March of 6 months of one-to-one mentoring that will be happening to end the program in March. In terms of how to apply, all of the information is given on the website primeprogram.in. If you go to the website, there are 2 places. There's an apply here and an apply now button as well. If you click this apply now button, it will take you to a simple Google form, which is pretty self-explanatory, and which includes the name of the organization, a little bit about the organization, the names of the nominee participants. And also we require 3 additional things, which is a nomination letter from the head of the organization stating the names of the nominated individuals as well as their association with the organization, an organizational slide deck, and the resumes and the bio sketches of the nominated individuals. So in addition to filling this form, if you submit these 3 documents with a given email ID, that would complete your application for the program. So with that, all of the information above is given on the website primeprogram.in. The last date for application is 30th May. And as a note, there is no fees charged to participate in the program. That concludes an overall overview of the AIMPRIME program. So back to you, Anurag. Thank you.
Thanks, Anmol. Thanks for that quick introduction to the AIMPRIME program. Now, it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce the panelists for today. The first panelist for today is Ms. Soma Chattopadhyay, who will also be the moderator. She's the Senior Manager, Incubation and Mentoring at Venture Center. The second panelist that we have with us is Dr. Binita Tunga, who is co-founder and CTO of Ameliorate. The third panelist we have is Mr. Shubham Singh, co-creator and CEO of Crust. The fourth panelist we have is Nitin Gupta, who is the founder and CEO of Flightbase Incorporation. Last but not the least, we have Anirvan Chaudhary with us, who is from Bloom Ventures, and he'll be able to add a VC perspective to this discussion. So I call upon Soma to take the discussion forward. All yours, Soma.
Thank you so much, Anurag. Good evening to everyone present at the discussion here today. It is actually my pleasure to share the podium with the champions of deep science and tech-led innovations. A warm welcome to all the panelists once again. The theme for today's discussion, as Anurag has already mentioned, is around science-based deep tech startups. This has been theme for the AIMPRIME program and all of our roadshows and talks, etc. And today we are going to hear about building, scaling science-based deep tech startups, the challenges faced, opportunities, role of ecosystem from both startup perspective and investor perspective. I'm expecting a very engaging discussion. Any audience question, request you to put it in the chat box. If time permits, we'll be happy to discuss it at the end of our session. So without further ado, let's get started with today's session. In real startup style, I'm going to request each of our startup founders here to give a very high level 1-minute pitch introduction of their startup. Please also mention about your aspirations to build that big impact via your startup. And also please talk a little bit about your background as well. Can I request Shubham to go first, please?
All right, thank you, Shoma. So I'll start with my introduction. My name is Shubham, and I'm a chemical engineer by background. So at Cras, we're towards mitigating climate change by using renewable materials such as crop waste. This waste is usually burnt post-harvest in India, leading to severe air pollution. So what we do is we incentivize the farm by buying the crop stubble from them, and we make products for sustainable packaging and furniture applications. So Shoma, do you want me to touch upon the story also?
Yes, briefly if you can mention.
Yeah. So basically for me, the motivation of the Crust started when I observed the problem of crop burning, but also a very personal incident when my niece was born in New Delhi. And that was the time when we had to buy an air purifier. The Delhi government had declared a public health emergency. So this incident, because this was a personal incident also, it just provoked me to do something, like first, we have polluted our water and we have aquaguards everywhere in all the households. And now we are polluting our air and we have air purifiers. So it made me think that what world we are living in and what world we are giving it to the coming generation. So that was one of the motivational factor for me. And post that, I applied for a fellowship program at Venture Center. It's known as a Social Innovation Immersion Program. And so this fellowship program had around 6 months of immersions, which helped me to understand this problem deeply, meet different farmers, stakeholders, understand their pain points, and then come up with a solution. So the entire fellowship, it helped us a lot in shaping our startup uh, in the very beginning about our journey through these immersions. And also it helped us to give certain grants to develop initial prototypes.
Sure.
So
thanks, Shubham.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll come back to it regarding all the support system that you're talking about. We'll come and discuss. Nitin, can we go next to you? 1 minute, quick high-level pitch about yourself and what Flightbase does.
Sure, Shoma. Thank you. Hello everybody, I am Nitin Gupta. I am the founder and CEO of Flightbase. We are a drone automation software company. Basically, we work on helping our customers automate their drones for various commercial applications. So the idea is that instead of using a human pilot to fly your drones, can drones take decisions and fly on their own and get the job done? Right. So my personal background is I am an aerospace engineer. I graduated from IIT Bombay and then did my master's from University of Maryland. So been working in the area of aerospace defense and automation systems for aircrafts and so on for a long time. I started this company about 5-6 years ago, and initially we were incubated at Venture Center. So Venture Center has been a great support. And now the company is headquartered in the US because most of our customers are from US, Europe, and the other Western regions. So yeah, that's a quick introduction.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Dr. Vinita, can we just hear it from you as well?
I'm Intelligent Biologist training. After my PhD education fellowship from Japan, I actually spent almost 12 years corporate and with the United States by my background, I ventured into the entrepreneurship, and then how a company was born 5 years back, and I spent 2 years in corporate somewhere. This was often put in the back seat over business profits and appeasing the management. For me, success had never been a being a corporate leader, and hence, started into this journey, and we thought that could definitely make a big impact in this marginalized communities, 5% agents. So, a personal loss using my uni needs to integrate and to diagnose
I think Dr. Vinita, your internet is breaking.
So,
Dr. Vinita, there is some disturbance. We are not able to hear you clearly. Is it possible to move to any other device?
I should just
We'll just wait for Vinita to come back with another alternative device. And in the meantime, I would now like to go to Anirban. So Anirban is from Bloom Ventures, which is a very well-known investment firm in the deep tech startup community and may not really require a formal introduction. But for everyone's benefit, Anirban, I would request you to take 2 to 3 minutes to briefly talk about Bloom Ventures, your investment philosophies, if you want to highlight any success story of an exciting science-based deep tech startup from your portfolio, and also briefly about your new initiatives. For example, India Deep Tech, when the first cohort is based, so your experience, how it has been like. Over to you, Anirban.
Sure, Shuma. Thanks a lot. So firstly, thanks a lot for inviting us to be a part of this very interesting and much needed event. So just to quickly introduce Bloom Ventures, we've been investing in the Indian startup ecosystem for the past 11 years. And we are right now investing out of a third fund. Soon we'll have a fourth fund up. The third fund was around $100 million. We have in all around $250 million of AUM, which will significantly increase once we go to our fourth fund. As such, we've been industry agnostic, but we've invested in a bunch of deep tech startups, and we've had some success stories as well. I think we were the first investors out of India to invest in deep tech. Grey Orange Robotics is one of them. Coincidentally, the founders are batchmates of mine from back in Pilani. Just to quickly tell you about myself, I'm a graduate from BITS Pilani and from 2005 to 2009. And ISB was 13-14. I've worked across multiple sectors, medical devices, semiconductors, and pharma, as well as some consulting and data science engagements as well. So getting back to Bloom, so we've invested across the board, across industries, but deep tech has been a very major focus for us. One of our larger companies, Grey Orange Robotics, is a hardcore deep tech company. They go head on against Amazon Robotics in a lot of ways. So there's Grey Orange, there's Tricock, and one of our recent investments that I co-led, which was Pixel, which has raised $7.2 million. So overall, in our portfolio of around 90 odd startups, we have 14 deep tech startups, hardcore deep tech. When I say deep tech, I mean science-based, robotics, AI, ML, and so on and so forth. So we continue to have a strong interest in deep tech. Along with that, we've also led this initiative called India Deep Tech, along with a bunch of VC firms across the ecosystem. Chirati and us, we got together and we started this initiative. The objective is to bring in all the stakeholders, that are important for the deep tech ecosystem, whether it's the government, whether it's the VC firms, obviously startups, institutes, corporates, incubators, so on and so forth, under one umbrella. And we also had a cohort, Shoma. I don't know if I've told you about this. So very similar to the AIMPRIME program, and I think um, we started it last year around September 2020. We did a bunch of events around space tech, industrial automation, genomics, etc. And eventually we moved to a cohort-based program. The objective is to create an ecosystem that's conducive for deep tech, right? If you think about SaaS, right? The last decade was when SaaS took over. I mean, in the beginning of the last decade, early of that, around that time is when you saw SaaS startups grooming, and now everyone can see how large they are. And
Yep.
we strongly believe that's going to happen in deep tech. And we strongly believe, and anyone in the area of deep tech, you're solving a core problem. We strongly believe that's going to happen. So that's from my end. I mean, we'll cover a lot during the discussion. So much.
Great things to hear from you, Anirban. I'm sure many startups would get encouraged to interact with you and get more kind of funding opportunities as well. Okay, so let's come back to our startups again. Both to Shubham and Nitin, and I'm not sure if Dr. Vinita can join the discussion. So to start with, your business has a focus, right? A problem you are trying to solve. So if you can tell us, how did you really decide which problem to focus on, what solution to build, how to sort of leverage the deep science and the technological intervention in your problem solving or identifying the problems, and how you sort of learned along the way, and also maybe you add to that in the scenario where technology is constantly evolving, how do you sort of stay focused, stay relevant, and stay ahead of your competitors? Nitin, if you'd like to go first.
Sure, thanks, Shoma. So as I mentioned, so my background is in aerospace, engineering, and I've been kind of very fascinated with robotics, space science, and programming, electronics, these kind of confluence of these areas. So it was more of a passion project when I started with this idea, with this concept. And it was just a one-person team working from my study room, and just kind of hacking few devices and trying to figure out, okay, what the future of aerial robotics is going to be. And when I started that time, aerial robotics was not really a very hot area in terms of investments or startups. So it was I didn't even know what a startup really means. So it was more like that, no, I want to do certain things and I'm not getting a job where I can pursue those things. So let me just do that on my own. So I started from that, and then so it was way back in 2014, 15 kind of a time frame when startups were not that glamorous or hot, and like not many engineering students knew what startups are. Things are very different now, no, fortunately. So it started from that, and it was more like that. Okay, no, let's put something together. And initially, we started with building autopilots for drones. That this basic electronic circuits that can help you automate drones. And so it was more of a science project, or just a fun thing that let's build something and see how far we can go. There were a lot of open source communities online that time, so people were discussing these ideas, and there was buzz around that, okay, something interesting can be done with drones, but nobody really knew the commercial potential of this technology. So we were just kind of fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. Although we did not really know much about business or startups that time, we just got started as a fun project, and then gradually, thankfully, because of the mentorship that we got, advice that we got from various mentors, and gradually we were able to find our way and realize that, okay, this can be really commercialized and converted into a business opportunity. And through just these discussions, this mentorship is how we got to understand and learn how to build a business out of the innovation that we have done. So it started as a innovation fun project, but then gradually converted into a business.
Sure. And how did you sort of, shaped it over a period of time, the new learnings that you had throughout your journey so far? Now you have already expanded to global platforms as well. So how has, things been for you? And also, like, as you see as I told you, the technology is constantly evolving, right? New AI and algorithms and all that coming into picture. How do you stay focused on your technology, on, how to remain contemporary, relevant, and ahead of the competitors as well, which are probably mushrooming all around you?
Sure. So Two things. One is, no, of course, the conviction, right? So because no, we started very early, so we kind of knew what was happening in this space, and then gradually, fortunately, this area got a lot of momentum in last 4-5 years. So Amazon announced plans to use drones for delivery, and then suddenly there was a buzz of using drones for inspections, for surveys, for emergency response, for almost like so many different vertical applications. So we were just kind of again fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, and we were able to at the same time we were getting all this advice of how we can convert our innovation into something that can generate revenues, and it can be a startup, and it can create employment, or really help us scale things and do better things in the future. So it was kind of coming together of so many factors that market was maturing, getting all this advice, and we were learning how to create better products. And then we are trying to understand, okay, what problem can we solve for someone using whatever the technology we have, right? So it started in a little bit of a different mode. I mean, many startups usually are started when you first identify a problem and then you come up with a solution to solve that problem. And that is like the traditional right way of finding a startup, or starting a startup. But at least in our case, it started a little bit differently, where we first came up with, okay, this is something cool to work on. And then we said, okay, what can, or whose problems, or what sort of problems can we now solve with something that we find interesting to work on. So it was a little different, but finally, yeah, I think luck plays a lot of role besides all the hard work and everything that almost like every startup anyway puts in. But luck plays a role where we were able to find our way. How it happened was again through a series of pivots. It was never the idea that we started on the first day was very different from what we are doing today, right? But it's just a sheer matter of perseverance and having that conviction in the fundamentals of the industry. So the fundamental belief was that yes, there will be a lot of drones that will be used for various commercial applications, and we understand and we know how to build a lot of technology that could be of help as this happens. So that belief has remained the same over the years, but the exact product offering has morphed into something which has gone up the value chain. So we started from something hardware, gradually moved into software, got into SaaS. So it has kind of evolved over a period of time, but the fundamental belief has remained the same. And this learning has come through interaction, not only with advisors and mentors, which was like generic advice as to how to build a company, how to do things, but more from talking to customers, more from talking to people for whom we are trying to solve the problem, and understanding that how can we do it more efficiently, how can we do it at scale. So those are things that we have learned by talking to like hundreds and thousands of customers over a period of time.
Great to hear that. Good lessons, actually, that speaking with the customers continuously to keep modifying your products and understanding the actual fit to the market. I think that's essential for every startups, as well as applies to deep science-based startups as well. Let me just come to Binita and see whether we are able to hear her or not. Dr. Binita, yeah, if you could just now talk about your startup, how all these things got started, how did you leverage upon the science component in it, and how did you sort of, started shaping your journey along the way? So if you can talk about it now.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. So, so after my IT KVP, actually, basically, I'm a molecular biologist by training. I spent almost 12 years in various corporate sectors. Somewhere, I realized this was in the taxi moment with the stop with management.
I think
And
Dr. Binita, if you could turn off the video and speak. I think there is a disturbance still. If you could turn off the video and if you can go now once.
Yeah. So with my background
Much
in biology, I ventured into this journey of entrepreneurship, and that's how Ameliorate was born 5 years back. We both, I mean, our founder, Dr. Rashbihari Tunga, and my life partner, knew that we could make a bigger impact in marginalized communities if I pursued my own passion and initiatives. And a personal loss, losing my 11-year-old niece due to undiagnosis was a trigger. So we both understood the lapses in the modern Indian healthcare system of early stage diagnostics. At Ameliorate, we strive towards making the life of people better by building novel platform technologies to make early stage diagnostics. And our focus is to make products which are affordable, accessible, and of high quality. My inspiration to stay in this field comes from realization that India is in a dire need of healthcare innovation, and the biggest satisfaction of all would be to be able to contribute to the health of my country. The journey has not been very easy, but yes, it is very fulfilling. And one should not forget that success is not a one-size-fits-all destination, but an exciting journey filled with endless opportunities. And that's how we are today. The vision of Ameliorate is to make healthcare effective and affordable. So in the initial stages, we were fortunate enough to have received a lot of government fundings in the form of grants. It was a big support. Government actually stepped in where investors feared to tread when I say of biotechnology. So we received support from BIOTech, and which is a big grant, and is Karnataka Biotechnology Information Technology Society for idea to our POC. We received the PRISM funding from DSIR and Nidhi Prayas funding from DST. So these grants, apart from giving financial support, it added to the credibility of our idea and gave scientific validity. So today I want to speak about biotechnology because investors usually shy away from this field, and particularly when it comes to medical devices startups, because of longer gestation period and market uncertainties. However, initial 3 years were really tough for us, but once we have generated the proof of concept, we had a number of corporate and VC firms like Padap Ventures, Let's Venture, Will Grow, Sign IIT Mumbai, and Derby Foundation, who invested in biotech. And with the startup program in place last 5 years, I witnessed a surge in states supporting startups by providing high-class facilities. And today I take this opportunity.
Dr. Nita, can I just interrupt? So we'll talk about all the support system probably in our coming in the next discussion. I would be a little more interested to know about how things have evolved for you, changed along the way as you learned new things. This COVID situation, pandemic suddenly set in, how that has kind of offset, how that kind of disrupted things.
Yes.
How are you able to pivot in this kind of a situation, and also how do you really stay ahead of your competitors, because there are so many diagnostics company also coming up in leveraging this pandemic situation. So how are you going to plan to actually tackle that?
So as mentioned, biotechnology, actually when it comes to health, it's a very challenging field in terms of the fact that we have to do whatever we are doing to, which is actually impacting the lives of the people. So if I'm making a diagnostic, it has to be really foolproof, it has to be highly sensitive, and it has to be. So there is a lot of regulatory procedures involved. And even if my POC is ready 2 years back, still I'm struggling to get a clinical validation done. And particularly the last 1 year, which had been very, very problematic in the COVID situation, it was very difficult to approach the hospitals, doctors, and the path labs to even get some samples, patient samples, because without the patient samples, we will not proceed. That is how we validate our product. So there's every wanted we should work on COVID. We worked on COVID also, but yes, I still say that regulatory procedures are so troublesome that approval is not easy. And when it comes to the support system from the hospitals and from the path labs and from the doctors, hardly there's anything. And to be very frank, we end up spending a lot in just convincing to take the product for the clinical evaluation. So it had been a tough journey, and still we are facing the similar situation, and hopefully the help of our team, and let's see how things shape up in the coming year. So it's a challenge.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I'll just move to Shubham for his quick comments, because he has already said how the genesis of the idea happened. But if you have a few more things to add to that, Shubham, on the discussion that we are having now, and then I'll move to Anirban with another question.
Yeah, so I think as Nitin was mentioning about the traditional approach, so we were one of those startups following the traditional approach where we picked up the problem first. And when we were looking at the solutions, there were so many things that could have been done by using the crop waste. Under the fellowship, we had like a lot of these mentoring sessions, which helped us to, do the problem mapping and also do the solution mapping on whatever is possible. So for us, the ideal solution was something which would enable the farmers to not burn the crop stubble in the very first place. And this is only possible if farmers can make money out of it when they can see profit in the waste. Right. So like, for example, I had looked into several other applications like generating electricity from crop waste or say biofuels, but the margins were very bleak. And farmers, when I interacted with them, they were like, it's too much of effort for peanuts that they don't want to take. After all, if they just use a matchbox for a rupee, that's the fastest way for the farmers to, clear off their fields. They don't have to put manual labor. They don't have to put money in expensive machinery. And that is why the applications that we selected allowed us to have enough margins for the farmers so that we can support the farmers with their secondary income. So we narrowed it down to basically the pulping process and engineered boards, these two applications. And talking about the pulping side, the first question that came into our mind was why are people not already using it? Right, because it's such a nice concept that we can just use crop waste to make paper and packaging. We need not cut trees. So why is it not already happening? And one of the major reasons that we came across while speaking to the paper mills was silica. All these major crops which are being burnt, they contain high amount of silica, which basically damages the machinery. And that was our spot where we could use our engineering skills to tackle the silica issue. And this is something that we have demonstrated already at the lab scale, and create high quality pulp out of the crop waste. The second challenge that we faced, we had the pulp. Now, the packaging was again a very diverse industry. Like, it's easy to get lost when you were doing the market research. There were so many things in packaging alone, thousands and thousands of products. So the way we approached this particular problem was to approach our customers. And packaging is something which there is a lot of buzz going on around sustainable packaging everywhere in the world. And even in India, there were policies. Even in fact, Maharashtra was one of the first states to ban single-use plastics, giving the way for sustainable packaging products. So we went to the potential clients, we spoke to them, and we understood their pain point, what they are facing in their packaging. And that's how we took up certain projects, which allowed us to also have some early revenue through that, and innovate as per what their requirement is, and then give the solutions accordingly. So that was a very early lesson for us, working together with the client so that we don't have to worry about.
Well, I'll just interrupt you. If you can just comment on maintaining a balance between what customer-centric means and what the innovation and your technological intervention comes into play. Do you often get a customer-centric product with the deep science that is there in your mind? Could you do that?
Yes. We, in fact, one of our service that we offer to our clients, to big MNCs. So we cater to big MNCs basically. And all of them, sometimes they come up with very unique problems. I'll just give an example. For example, we are working with the client Stanley Black & Decker, and the product that we chose for them is a measuring tape product. And it comes in a clamshell packaging, which is difficult to recycle. And it's also rated as one of the worst packaging ever in America, because a lot of Americans, they get cuts by opening that clamshell packaging. So we innovated on we went further on what we have innovated, because pulp is our expertise, but we innovated further on the molded pulp side, so that we could give an alternative to Stanley Black & Decker. So we gave them a molded packaging solution where they can just hook on their measuring tape, and they can just hang it around on Walmart or any other showrooms.
Sure. Thanks, Shubham. I'll just go to Anirban with a kind of a challenge we kind of encounter while we have been working with the science-based deep tech startups. Like, you can hear the excitement in Shubham's voice when he's talking about the technology, right?
Yeah.
I've seen many of our scientist promoters and technologist promoters, they kind of are too excited often about their invention, and they tend to spend a lot of time reiterating their products and until they achieve the best in class. They get also tempted with building multiple platforms instead of just keeping their focus on one or two products and make it all the way to market. What has been your experience in dealing with the startups in your portfolio or otherwise while interacting with them? and what kind of advice you would give to them, and as well as people in our audience probably, to how to stay focused, how to sort of balance between this innovator and entrepreneur orientation.
Absolutely. Firstly, I'm the one to give advice to entrepreneurs. I think they know their stuff better than anyone else. No, so I think the most critical point, especially investing in deep tech, I brought up gray orange, right? I saw the journey of gray orange during Bits Pilani, right? The two guys who are the founders of Gray Orange. From Bits Pilani itself, they were really cutting edge robotic engineers, right? But morphing themselves into actual business people, where you're looking at the bigger picture and trying to figure uh, where is the use case. Just back in college, 2005 to 2009, they developed a robot that you slap it, it falls on the ground, it stands up, right? Could you have taken that technology to market at that point? Probably not. So figuring out what part of your IP can actually be taken to market in the fastest manner. And Nitin also touched upon that, right? He was in hardware, he figured that the software play for Flightbase was a more interesting play. So being flexible on what your IP could actually create an impact from a revenue or a cost point of view, right? If you're selling to B2B customers, what matters is whether you can create a revenue impact on the top line, or you actually can impact the bottom line by reducing the cost. So figuring out what is the use case is somewhere, and how large that use case is somewhere that I have noticed that some of the deep tech startups that I interact with, you know, they could do better over there, right? Because of the simple fact that you get so obsessed with the technology, you're not thinking of how large that business could actually be. Because if you think about Pixel, one of another company in our portfolio, I mean, what are they building? They're building hyperspectral satellites that are going to be in low Earth orbit, and they're going to beam imaging. But when they pitched to us, that's not what they pitched to us. They didn't pitch to us about the technology and how advanced. Again, a Bits Pilani startup, 11 years after Gray Orange, built out of campus. I mean, they have no idea about business, right? I mean, they've not stepped into the business world, but the way they pitched to us was more about what the business impact could be, how large the business could be. It wasn't about the technology. While the technology is the most important thing for a deep tech startup, but sometimes folks get lost in how deep the technology is, how advanced it is. But also the other factor is, even if your technology is advanced in India, if you're number one in India, that doesn't mean much, right? Because if you go to the global level, there could be hundreds of other players who are advanced compared to you, because and if you're not world class at a global level, that I mean, how do you go to market? How do you go to the global markets? How do you become a large startup? And I've heard the argument around deep tech, not enough patient capital and all of that among a lot of discussions. But I believe there's a lot of capital in the market. If you think about it, there are deep tech focused funds like Pi Ventures, Special Invest. There are us who carve out a major part of our fund to deep tech, right? There are a bunch of investors. I would say there's dry powder to the tune of $200 million in the market dedicated to deep tech as of today. If not 200, probably 70, 80 million, at least 150 odd capital. Like if you take Inflexa, if you take Pi Ventures, if you take Special Invest, if you take us, all of us, there's enough capital allocated to deep tech. But the question is, are there enough startups that are building something that can be world class? It's not just about being the best in India, right? So that's also something that's lost. But otherwise, if you think about the kind of startups that are being built out of India, they're hardcore engineering folks that have built very strong businesses. You take Gray Orange, you take Tonbo Imaging, you take Sedemac, the list can go on, and hopefully Pixel will also be there someday. So I think there's enough. I don't think the fact that you are a tech-oriented person doesn't allow you to do business. I don't buy that argument at all. A lot of people give that argument because look at Nitin, right? I mean, and look at Shubham, and look at the other folks. I mean, the first in love is tech, but they've morphed into becoming a business person. I think that flexibility is very important, right? So
that's very heartening to hear that you think that it's really not a big challenge, and it is possibility that we can actually help companies to stay focused.
Absolutely, there's enough capital, I would say. So if you look at the deep tech focused funds in India,
so Anirban, I'll come to the capital part. Just I'll just go to Shubham because we are actually running short of time, and Shubham has a hard stop. So Shubham, if you can quickly talk about, like, you have a very strong social orientation along with being a science-based deep tech. So your challenges are also probably slightly different than a core deep tech, because you also have to maintain that social focus and all of that. So how has ecosystem played a role in actually supporting, shaping up your business? Now you are in the scaling up phase, also helping you. For example, research labs, corporate accelerators. How has been these kind of organizations playing a role to support you?
Yeah, so I think we were very fortunate to, get the Incubation at Venture Center because that entire ecosystem has so many things. Being a deep tech startup, like the first thing that we also look for is patenting and all those things. So TechX at Venture Center helped us a lot to file our first patent and also, get advices on our agreements. So we have signed a couple of MOUs with research laboratories in India and outside to work in collaboration with different people in collaboration with different people in the science background also in what we are doing, right? Because we need the technology all the time, and if there is someone already having it, it's always good to explore that. So that kind of support we explore technically. Then secondly, so we have been a part of Techstars Accelerator that helped us to gain good confidence in our business side, in our go-to-market strategy. They helped us to, so Stanley was one of the partners with Techstars. So it allowed us to work directly with the global executive body of Stanley Black & Decker, and work very closely with a big enterprise. So overall, with these accelerator programs, it helps a lot. And one more point that I would want to touch up, talking about our base at Venture Center, is the peer-to-peer learning from other fellow entrepreneurs, because they are a very important part of the entire ecosystem. There are people who are a step above, there are people who are a step behind. So we have a peer-to-peer learning group where all of us keep on helping and supporting each other in our day-to-day challenges that we as entrepreneurs face in our business. It could be very simple things, say for example designing ESOPs, or getting advices on trademark registrations or any other thing, right? So like for example, if I have any doubts, I look up to my senior entrepreneurs who are in our community at Venture Center, and approach them first, because you're very well connected, not only professionally but personally also. So together, I think it has been as an entrepreneur, though I started my journey alone, but it feels that the entire ecosystem is walking and helping the class to move forward.
Thank you so much, Shubham. Very happy to hear your positive approach about the support for the ecosystem. I'll move on to now Nitin, because of course this question is bound to come for Nitin. That Nitin, how has been your experience for your journey to Silicon Valley from India, right? You had the disruptive solution built in India. Now you have taken it to the global market, global platforms. What are your learnings from there? Would be really keen. I'm very keen to understand, and as well as I'm sure audience would also like to know.
Sure. So, Shoma, as you know, we started from Pune, and Venture Center was one of our initial incubators, and we also got seed investment help of Venture Center. And I think as Shubham mentioned, so basically having that community of other entrepreneurs as well as mentors, that helps immensely, especially for the first time entrepreneurs, where you do not have anybody else in your maybe friends network, family who has done this before. So how do you get that peer learning otherwise? So SLP was one of the programs that we were a part of, which helped immensely. And of course, being at Venture Center and knowing other startups, what they are doing and how things are. So it was through the advice of various mentors and our angel investors. We were very fortunate to have some really good angel investors who had built startups or successful startups before. So they had a lot of good advice to share with us, that how we should go about thinking about scaling our business, or where is our customer and what kind of stuff we should be doing, and how we should think about maybe doing some pivots in order to align our business with that kind of growth ambitions, etc. So it was from the advice of these mentors that we began to realize that we are not going to have a lot of customers in India, because the kind of products that we are building, they are most likely to be adopted first in the Western markets. And eventually, yes, after a few years, yes, Indian markets will also mature, and there will be a need of drone automation in India as well. But the early market is going to be somewhere else, and it is important to be close to where your customers are. And also, what happens is, because your customers are in a certain geography, it is likely that the investors and remaining ecosystem in that geography would be better suited for your growth compared to being in a location where even like in India, even manually operated drones are not very common today. But if you go to US, Europe, manually operated drones have been around for 3-4 years already. So if you talk about commercial applications of drones, it is very obvious that yes, this is a huge opportunity. Yes, we should be investing and building this in the Western markets. So what happens is that even investors or people who are in that ecosystem are better tuned or aligned with. They have a better understanding or appreciation of what this technology is capable of and what is the value of what you are building. So based on all these learnings, we realize that it is important that we kind of rebase ourselves and establish this company from the US because that is where our customers are and potentially investors and other partners would be. So initially it was very kind of little confusing and how to go about it. But again, once you understand why this is important, then you are able to ask the right questions and find your way. So it happened then over a period of time that we figured out, okay, how to get the company incorporated, how to set up some sort of an office presence there, and then restructure the company so that the Indian company becomes a subsidiary. So all this is like once that decision was made or once that understanding was there that we need to do this, then we were able to find the right people who advised us and helped us to get things done. And that one single decision helped us significantly because then we were able to.
Nitin, can I just cut short? Sorry, I have to break the flow of conversation because Shubham, I think, has a hard stop now and he has to leave. Shubham, before you leave, very quickly, one piece of advice for the entrepreneurs who are aspiring to pursue the science-led business ideas.
Yeah, I think one piece of advice would be, I think, a focus on team building, because in deep tech startup, there are so many other disciplines that are needed to build a product, not only the expertise that you have. So pay attention to that and also keep patience in team building. So I think that's what I can say. And thank you again, Shoma. I'm sorry I have to drop off now.
Not a problem, Shubham. Thank you so much for taking
you.
out your time to join us today. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Shubham.
Bye-bye.
Nitin, please continue. It's very interesting to hear. Please continue.
Sure. So yeah, so I was just talking about how we made that decision and how this thing panned out for us.
Right.
So at least in our case, because largely the market was in those geographies earlier. Being an Indian startup, it was kind of little hard to sell to those customers because there is a trust deficit. And we're seen as an Indian company, and of course, there is a different mindset, and customers are not very comfortable buying from somebody from a different region. Right, but the moment you are positioned as a US-based startup, and so there is a certain level of trust, and also the paperwork, your agreements, everything is aligned with that sort of an environment. So all these signing these contracts or getting more and more customers to work with, and then later on raising investment as well. So later on we were able to raise a funding round in the US. So a lot of those things got aligned because of that decision.
Great learnings, Nitin. So very important for people to know that when to take that critical decision, that where your market lies, and be a little bold to actually take that leap and just move forward in that direction. Thanks so much, Nitin. I'll just move on to Vinita again. Vinita, your experience, how it has been so far in your in terms of getting support from the ecosystem, the local ecosystem around you, the mentors or the incubators. You have already spoken a bit about it. If you want to add few specific points on how in some of the aspects it has been extremely useful for you. Maybe you can cut your video off so that we can hear you clearly.
Is that okay now?
Yes, but still some disturbance. Yeah, please go ahead.
So yeah, definitely, as you mentorship, mentor or guru, the word itself means different habits. Mentors can help get problems and situations complex and we actually not as a new business owner have a.
Vinita, I think you can cut the video off. We are not able to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Is that okay, ma'am? Yeah. So
yeah,
as a new business owner, definitely we may have trouble looking at our business through the eyes of a customer and potential investors or be it government officials. So definitely a business mentor who has dealt with these people in the past often can help you understand how your business will look to these individuals. So, and the mentors will give you more experience, which are actually not shared in the books, like how they have dealt with the previous challenges and they have worked with so many startups. So they will know how the problems which startups they face. And I have been very helpful. I have got good support from mentors in terms of they have given us a lot of valuable connections and timely advice, and also occasional checks what they do and how they're proceeding and how our journey has been. So that is a big support from the mentors, and their reassurance definitely helps us to stay in business for a long period of time. And the one of our I would like to thank our mentor, Mr. Pankaj Thakkar, who is co-founder of PEDF Ventures, for hand-holding us in this journey. And he had been a good encouragement for us, and during the consequences of failure on our own would have been really bad, particularly when it comes to healthcare. So because the projects move so slow because of the lot of challenges involved in accepting the
Vinita, can I just interrupt and ask one question, related question here? How did you really identify the right mentors for you, and what kind of mentorship engagements worked for you?
So when we did our just the proof of concept was ready with us, so we had actually participated in one of the accelerator programs which was conducted by KIT TBI Bhubaneswar, and there I got to know of the few mentors, and out of that Mr. Pankaj Thakkar was one of them. So we took help from him, and now has also invested in our company. And apart from that, we had also received mentoring support from Wilgrow, and also support systems from the Derby Foundation, that is actually the Anand Sagar University. And in the place where we are incubated right now, that is Jyoti Institute of Technology, AIC, we have received good mentoring support from the teams over there, and it had been a great boost to our overall business.
Sure. Thank you so much, Vinita. I would now like to go to Anirban. And Anirban, I have few questions lined up, though we are a little past 6 o'clock, but I think these are important. So we heard that this, ecosystem really plays a big role. So mentorship and partnerships and other engagement networks, all of that plays a big role. Do you, the deep tech has been doing the rounds for some few decades now, and we have kind of, evolving ecosystem. But do you think really science-based deep tech system, we have an equally strong ecosystem yet? And if no, then what do you think we could do better to, surface to basically facilitate many more startups, many more science-led startups?
So I mean, how you define science-led startups plays a major role. Like, would you call robotics a science-led startup? There's a lot of science behind it, right? There's Jacobian matrix. There's degrees of freedom that you have to compute at a very advanced level. Nitin would know, can talk more about that. And if you think space tech, is it science-based? Definitely it is, right? So I think certain areas like robotics, whether you take robotics, whether you take space tech, there's a lot of capital getting pumped into it. But when I think about biotech, as Dr. Benita also pointed out, is there enough capital being pumped into new biologics, CRISPR-Cas9? There is research going on in India, or for that matter, even artificial meat, plant-based meat. Need not be plant-based, but bioreactor grown meat. Is there enough capital pumped into? Probably not, because I think it's also, this is a philosophy that I have, that capital will always chase where there's expertise, right? I think India has been able to develop expertise in a few areas, which are science-based. Those include space tech, those include robotics, and few others are coming up, right? But over a period of time, I think you would see a lot of capital being pumped into all of these areas. But you need successes. You need successes to bank on. And we've seen certain number of successes in each of these fields. Like day before yesterday, you would have seen Skyroot and Agnikul raised $11 million each.
Yes.
Right? Pixel had raised $7.2 million a few months before that. And then you've seen Grey Orange raise ton loads of money. You've seen imaging startups like Tonbo raise a lot of money and build a very solid, sound business. So I think it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. Life sciences, unfortunately, if you think about large companies in India, if you take Cipla, if you take who's doing innovative drugs, no one. If you think about medtech, CDSCO, sad, I mean, I shouldn't be commenting about this, but CDSCO that doesn't have, I wouldn't say know-how, but doesn't have the guideline to even certify certain medical devices, right? For that, you need to go and get a 510K on an FDA approval. So that is expensive. And sometimes because we've not done enough of it as an ecosystem, the capital doesn't chase you, unfortunately. So that's my take. But I'm sorry, I don't know if I answered your question. I answered in a convoluted manner, but if there's anything else that you would like to drill deeper, I'm happy to do that.
So I was just coming from the fact that, the ecosystem already has the incubators, the accelerators. We have a good R&D infrastructure. We have good such kind of so-called public-private partnerships as well. Is there anything else that can be done to, bring everybody together and do it in a way that we are able to actually see many more IP-led startups coming up?
Absolutely. And this is on the basis of something. I'm going back again to my BITS Pilani days, 2005 to 2009. I was doing a project on rapid prototyping, and this was to do with 3D printing pneumatic circuits. Right, pneumatic circuits are used in every industry, and the amount of IP that BITS Pilani alone had, and BITS Pilani, while it's research driven, you have institutes that are much more research driven, like IISc, IIT Kanpur, where there's IIT Kharagpur. I mean, there are other institutes as well. I think there's a large opportunity to take the IP that is sitting in institutes and channel them towards startups.
Sure.
I don't think that's happening enough. If you think about US, I mean, you would see professors are billionaires. Some of the professors who have medtech, who build medtech companies. J&J actually has a professor like that, who's essentially advised them on every single medical device they've built, and he's a billionaire. I mean, I've not seen that in India, and that needs to happen more. In fact, it's an unannounced startup that we just invested in. It's building a self-driving vehicle for industrial applications. One of the founders is one of the leading professors from India in AI, right? I mean, the kind of IP he has, if professors like him started licensing their IP to different startups, I think there's a large opportunity that's missing. And at the same time, patient capital is missing for certain sectors, right? Every VC, unfortunately, is pushing startups to move fast, but deep tech startups, till you commercialize them, you cannot move fast enough, right? And also the other factor is
chicken and egg problem, probably.
Yeah. And the other factor is, I think founders are sometimes not targeting the right VCs, right? Now, if you're targeting a $200 million fund for a business that cannot be larger than a $400 million business, there's no chance that fund is going to put money into you, because you've got to understand the VC dynamics as well. Like, the larger the size of the fund, the larger the returns that you're looking for. Like, if you're a $200 million fund, you're chasing $5 billion outcomes. If you're a $100 billion fund, you're chasing $2 billion outcomes. So on and so forth. If you're a $700 million fund, you're chasing $20 billion outcomes. And that's why I think a lot of the capital is sitting with some of the large funds like Accel, Sequoia, Matrix, etc. That's the reason why they cannot do deep tech. So I think it's important to have few carve-outs for the larger funds, if that's possible in the near future. And that's something that that's something that we would definitely consider as we grow. I mean, we are already grown into a $150+ million fund with a fund 4. So that's something that we will change soon. But I think that's more important, because targeting the right VCs, if you want to raise VC capital. And there are other ways of funding your business. Like, there are few really cutting edge deep tech companies that have been built out of India without VC money, right? Because that's the kind of money that is suitable for that particular business, right?
Right. Sure. So I intended to discuss about the raising capital, the funding landscape, but I think that has already been spoken here in different ways by Shubham. Has pointed out to the funding schemes available under Ministry of Science and Technology in the early stages. And of course, Anirban mentioned that there are VCs and angels coming up, but still it's slightly patchy. It will depend like how the successes are kind of surfacing up. Based on that, probably, things will be better in the coming days. But yes, there is a lot of positive trend, I would say, in the funding scenario. So we are not going in that detailed discussion. The last few quick advice that I would like all of you to actually give. From Anirban, I would like you to just emphasize on the importance of leveraging this blended learning program platforms. Like you mentioned, you had run something like AIMPRIME in the past, you had a cohort and all of that. So how do you think, the startups or the incubators can actually leverage these kind of platforms to better shape their programs, better equip the startups for their faster growth and probably,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
some challenges.
No, so if I think about the program that we launch, India Deep Tech, we'll carry on doing that every year. It's not like, and the good thing about the program is we have every VC that invests in deep tech a part of that program, right? There are contributors, they do talks. We have some of the top deep tech founders who come and mentor some of the startups that are part of the cohort. If I think about the cohort, it was a nine startup cohort, if I'm not mistaken. Every single one of them had the opportunity to talk to Samay and Akash from Grey Orange, right? Every single one of them had the opportunity to talk to Tonbo Imaging founders. Every single one of them had the opportunity to talk to Flutura founders. And I think learning from your peers is the best way to learn, right? And at the same time, they got a lot of advice on how to refine their pitch. They had pitch mentors from the VC ecosystem who helped them actually build their deck out, right? So that was an added benefit. At the same time, I think the networking opportunity cannot be undermined, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's one issue of deep tech founders that I have noticed. It might be completely wrong, but if I can compare them with our SaaS or B2C founders, the way they network is crazy. Like they will ensure that they know everyone in the ecosystem. And I think these platforms also give you the opportunity, the deep tech founders, to network and know everyone in the ecosystem. They know that, okay, WRVI is a fund that I could approach. They could know that Pi Ventures is a fund that I could approach because they invest in that space. They'll know what's suitable for them. And at the same time, you have access to founders who built something 0 to 1 or 0 to 100, whatever you want to say. So I think it's the networking opportunity. It's the refinement of your pitch. It's at the same time, to a certain extent, access to capital also that happens. So I would say those are the broad.
Yeah, I think that's
advantages.
great insights on for this kind of program. And a quick piece of advice from both Vinita and Nitin for the entrepreneurs who are aspiring to build a science-led deep tech kind of businesses. Nitin, can you go first?
Sure. So I think this point was touched before. So basically, a few important things that you need to put in place is, of course, a good set of mentors and advisors, having that ecosystem around you, because that helps you build, not only build conviction, but also kind of get good suggestions or advice wherever you are stuck. And those things could sometimes become very critical because if you're not able to get that good advice at the right time, it might end up taking several weeks or months of your time, which could otherwise be done in a few hours. So building, having that network or that ecosystem around you is ultra important. And the second is having a solid team. So and that needs to be nurtured. You have to nurture your team. You have to build that conviction in the team. And what happens is you start to see that compounding effect of the team. So when you hire your first set of people, if they were to leave after a year or 2 years, you are losing a lot of IP with them. So you have to figure out innovative ways and ways of making them convinced that this is the right opportunity for them. And of course you have to work with them to figure out how will they grow in their careers if they stick with you. And if you are able to retain them for next few more years or as long as you can, they will start giving you much higher value than they were able to deliver in the beginning. And that is where you see a lot of compounding, and a lot of that IP is preserved from getting leaked or good outside. So work on those things, and that needs that needs planning, and that needs a lot of good execution on how do you retain that team, how do you build on a good team.
Sure, that's I think is an invaluable piece of advice. Even Shubham had also stressed upon having a good team, which probably is very important because it's difficult to find good team when you are developing a science lab. So when you find one, you have to really treasure them. You have to really kind of retain them. So that's a very good piece of advice, Nitin. Vinita, over to you. What would be your advice to the startups, to the young startups?
Yes, Shoma. So as a scientist, I would initially say that scientist orientation normally brings out the idea and then to a product. But when a scientist gets into an entrepreneurial mode, the entrepreneurial orientation is more important to balance the needs of the market, the cost effectiveness of the product, ease of use, convincing the investors, understanding the regulatory needs. So it's basically a multifaceted job. And as a scientist, we need to groom ourselves into an entrepreneur. So patience, perseverance, and persistence. So 3 Ps, very important. And a startup should have these qualities as their ethos to reach their goal along with founders. And always we should have as a scientist, we are definitely very much focused and we're very passionate about our ideas, right?
Yeah.
So we have to have a plan B also ready with us. And we cannot be sticking always to plan A, that this is what we have thought of and this is what we have to go about it. No, if this has been the approach, then it is very difficult to reach our ultimate goal. So we should be flexible enough and open to others' ideas and opinions. Look outside how people are doing, look at our competitors, how they are performing, what are the new things, research coming up, and how we can try to use all those information to bring again a new thing to our product. So that process of change we should be acceptable to it, and we should always be looking forward for it. And last but not the least, as everyone, as we have seen that the team strength is most important. And a good team, like right now we have a team of very young researchers, and we have people who have specializes on finances, accounting, legal, because as a scientist I don't know all these aspects. So if I don't know, I cannot be thinking that yes, I will learn and I will do. No, in a startup it won't work like that. So we need to accept gracefully that yes, I don't know and I need to hire an expert for it. So that's how it works. And I feel these are the qualities essential for a startup, especially in biotech. Patience we need to have, otherwise it's going to be a long journey.
Absolutely. These are like really the bang on kind of advice that all the startups should be following in their while developing their business. So with this, I think we have come to the end of the panel discussion here. I don't have any more questions unless there are some more questions in the chat box from audience that I'll be happy to direct it to our panelists. Over to you. Anurag? Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I think, Soma, we have overshot it by 20 minutes. And I think it was a very enriching discussion that we had. Great to have all of you as panelists from the entire Atal Innovation Mission team and Venture Center. Extremely thankful to each and every one of you, Shoma, Nitin, Anirvan, and Dr. Benita. Thank you for taking out your time and enlightening us with your brilliant ideas on deep tech science-based startups. I hope that this session was of great learning to all the people who have logged in today on YouTube, as well as the WebEx team. Thanking you all again and wishing you to take good care.
Thank you so much, Anurag, and
you.
thank you to the AIM
Thank
team
you.
and our Venture Center colleagues and everybody, all the panel members. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Please
you.
take care.
Take care. Bye.